I'm Andrew Thatcher, and you are listening to the Audio Description Narrators of America Know Your Narrator series, Beyond Your Narrator episode.
I'm Roy Samuelson, your host, and today we're very honored to have a bonus episode with Knighthawk Digital Entertainment Group with Rena Strober and Chip Beaman. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Let's jump right in. What do you love about audio description, Rena?
Oh, wow. So much. The biggest thing I love about audio description is that it allows my blind friends to go to the movies with me or go to see theater or call me up and say, did you watch this television show? And we're able to just share our thoughts about art and film and television. Yeah, and I also love it as a voice actor. I got to do some audio description, and it taught me so much about what happens during it and how my blind friends experience film and television.
Thanks, Rena. What about you, Chip? You've got a background in video game development, working with post-production companies, working with voice talents, and many others. How has accessibility in general, or maybe even audio description, been a part of your background?
From like a technological standpoint, I love the fact that this is an accessibility feature for the blind and visually impaired. What I really love about this is that my background comes in video games, and for people who are playing video games, or like Rena said, watching TV and seeing, watching movies, this is a kind of a technological advancement that I had not previously known about or heard about. So this is something that is new to me, and I just find it fascinating.
You both collaborated on a project together called Art in the Dark. Can you talk about anything that you want about this, whether coming together and maybe how it was received, or everything? Tell us everything.
Ooh, this was one of those times that you sit down at a diner and you see this sundae on the menu and you're like, no way that sundae is going to look like that when I get it. And then you order that sundae and like it comes out 12,000 times more amazing. So it all started with, I started teaching voice at the Academy of Music for the Blind. I was a voice teacher for kids 4 to 18 who were either born blind or who had lost their sight. So I immediately just started to appreciate their world. And when I started to perform, I always am performing in LA, and I started to bring my students with me on stage to all my shows. And I noticed the audiences would react differently. Their hearts would be open. They would just have a real emotional reaction seeing the voices come out of these incredible singers. And I started to imagine a world where the audience was blind and the cast sort of performed for them, so they would have a glimpse into what it's like to live without sight. This is why Chip Beaman is like the greatest partner in crime, because I brought the idea to him. I remember sitting in his office and he bounced up and started like pacing around the room, and he's like, this is amazing. Because I was like, Chip, I kind of want to do this show where I turn off the lights and I have people sing. Like that was it. I was like, let's put the audience in the dark. And Chip doesn't do anything on a small level, so he's like, oh my God, let's blow this up. And boy, did we. We had a show called Art in the Dark, and I'll let Chip talk more about it. But basically we had a cast of blind actors, and then we had musicians and drummers and singers and comics and cellists enter this black box space, and our audience was completely blinded with these blackout bands, which were these sunglasses that made the audience complete, no light, nothing went in. And the families of all of my blind students got a real glimpse into their children's lives. So yeah, Chip can talk a little more, but I just like, that was the seed. And then it blew up into like that sundae on the diner menu where you're like, there's no way.
Yeah, Rena came to me with this idea, and like she said, it was just, such a fantastic idea. And like Rena said, we wanted to immerse the audience in what it's like to be blind for a day, for a short period of time, give the audience that sense. So we came up with this story of these 4 blind performers and they're all fairly young, except for Christina Jones, who's a little bit older and an amazing opera singer, by the way. And we decided that we were going to do it in a small, very intimate theater in West Los Angeles called the Pico. It's a 100-seat theater, so we didn't really even need to mic the actors because it was so like in your face to the extent that you could see what was in front of you. And we turned off all of the lights, and we just took the audience on this journey to. I think we went to a baseball game or a football game. We went to. I think we went to Bangladesh. We were on a plane. We watched.
No, we went to Bulgaria or Romania, and we had this 15 women singing group of Bulgarian women's choir enter this space and sing in these discords that make the hair on your neck stand up. And then, we went to a football game, and Christina Jones and I were arguing about this because I wanted drums because I feel like drums really get the heart beating. And Christina Jones kept saying, Rena, I am blind and I hate drums. They make me anxious. I hate drums. Please don't have a drum line. And I was like, oh, Christina, please. So we negotiated, and we had 2 drumline drummers who padded their drums and padded their sticks, so it wasn't crazy. But they came in and rocked out. We had a cellist, Tina Guo, sat in the middle of the room doing cello. And then, like Chip said, it was a story. We wrote a play about these 4 people and a narrator who went around the world. When they were on the plane, and this actually goes back to audio description, Gavin, who was 9 or 10, one of our young actors, is on the plane listening to the movies, and he tells the narrator, I don't know what's going on in the movie because they're not audio described. So we hear the narrator go, oh, let me push this button for audio description. And then up comes audio description for Star Wars and what were the movies?
Raiders of the Lost Ark and Toy Story and Willy Wonka. Or some iconic scenes that the audience, without the aid of the actual actors' dialogue, I mean, if you're just listening to the music, you might not know what's happening. But once you have someone like you, Roy, who does the audio description and can describe the scene, the audience just came alive. They're like, oh, wait, I know exactly what that is. I know exactly what you're talking about. And actually, at the end of the show, and I think Rena will attest, the show ended around 9:30 at night, and our audience didn't leave until almost midnight. They stayed around talking to all of the performers and just reliving that moment. It was one of the most rewarding experiences I had in professional careers at Knighthawk. It's been great.
Yeah, and the parents of a lot of my blind students were in tears because they've raised these kids and live a day-to-day life with them, but they had yet to really experience what their child lives every day of their life. So there was this sense of importance to what Chip and I were doing as a theatrical event suddenly became so important to even our sighted audience members because they left that theater with this newfound understanding of, oh, I see a blind person walking down the street. I understand a little bit more, and we taught throughout the show too, like we taught never pet a guide dog, how to offer your elbow in an airport, never grab someone's arm. Like it's also important to me and to Chip to educate the sighted world about etiquette because people don't know, Christina will tell you all the times people grab her arm or pet her guide dog on buses. So it was just magical.
The other things that we talked about, what we wanted to do is we designed what we called a sensory bag. And in that sensory bag, we had a Braille ticket that was a ticket to the jazz club that you were going to go to. And we had popcorn that you would consume while you were watching the movie on the plane. We also had rose-scented
chocolate. We had chocolate.
We also had
and then
chocolate.
We had a rose oil hand wipe because in Bulgaria, they're famous for the rose fields. So we wanted to give this the smell. And so the actors would say, please open your bag now and search and find this item or this item. And then because Chip Beaman doesn't do anything small, towards the end of the show, the kids travel through Central Park in the winter. So Chip had these 2 huge fans and a snow machine, and it snowed in this tiny theater in West LA, mostly covering this one older woman in the center.
Yeah.
She looked like Olaf. It's like, oh gosh.
And we were still working it out.
Yeah, working out the details. But there were fans. I would spray senses. I would spray oil in the fan. So pine, right? So when they went through this pine forest, the audience would suddenly be smelling pine. I mean, it was all your senses were like having affairs with each other.
It sounds like your passion, both of your passion, and also the feedback that you got from the blind advisors really brought top immersive quality here, that you helped educate the audience, both with understanding and also modeling how quality works.
Yeah. And it's also important to me to hire blind actors. That was really important, that our entire cast were blind actors. The next time we do it, I want to incorporate more. I would love for the whole show to be cast, by blind musicians, and because it's something that Christina, who auditions for a lot of professional operas, she came out of the London School of Music. She walks into auditions, and as soon as they see that she is blind, they panic and say, well, we don't have the Braille music. How are you going to learn this? And instead of asking and instead of learning how to be accessible, they don't hire her. So it's really important for us to show that, look, this is an actor. That's how they're identified. This is a singer who happens to be blind. But Christina has done many professional operas. Gavin has sung the national anthem for the Lakers and the Kings. Danielle was in our cast. She sings the anthem places she wants to be on stage. Little Allie Elliott has a YouTube channel. I mean, they shouldn't be thought of as being any less than because they don't see.
Are there any other projects that you've been involved with that amplify the blind talents that you work with?
There's one project in particular that I'm just going to allow Rena to just go with. Knighthawk and Rena and some other special people have joined forces to produce an album that Rena will tell you about.
I am about to release a children's album, which is a family album. It's called Imagine That, the Sesame Street music of Joe Raposo and Jeff Moss. And it is me and Jason Alexander and French Stewart and Christina Jones and ML Woolley, this incredible actor who plays a blind diabetic drag queen on AJ and the Queen. So the album cover, actually, Chip, will you do the description of the album cover? You were really good at that.
So the album cover features a cartoon image of Rena Strober with red hair and a flowery dress and a whole bunch of animated characters. And across the top, it reads, Imagine That. And if you were to rub your hand across the area where it says Imagine That, it's written in Braille so that anyone who is blind who touches it will also be able to know what the title is. And when then you open up the jewel case, there's an amazing picture of Rena. And when you open and flip through the pamphlet, you'll see the song list and you'll see a bunch of acknowledgments from Knighthawk.
So, Chip, you got to go back because I'm standing there in animated holding up a little girl who's my child, Izzy, and she's trying to touch the Braille. So the Braille dots are actually incorporated into Imagine That. And then there's a dragon who's holding a walking cane and a little froggy. And the biggest part of this album is I invited all of my blind friends who sing to fill out the choir of this album. So there, Gavin is on there, Christina, Danielle, Allie. There's about 15 young blind singers, and I've called them DOTS, D-O-T-Z. And the album is full of the joyful, pure, simple songs from old Sesame Street that just celebrate diversity and ability and inclusion and music. A big percentage of the proceeds, after I pay off what it costs to make the album, I'm making donations to Guide Dogs of America, which is a local, like LA County guide dog organization, and also to Gavin R. Stevens Foundation, little Gavin Stevens, who's not so little, he's 11 now. He was born with a very rare disease called LCA. And Allie Elliott on my album also has this very rare disease. So his family started this wonderful nonprofit that raises money for research, which is very important. So I'm going to be using this album to raise awareness to both of those organizations. It's been getting lots of great press.
And airplay.
Yeah, it's been playing in New Orleans already, in Australia. New Zealand is playing it. There's a real need right now for this music and for Sesame Street. And I couldn't be happier with the timing in a world where you think, what can possibly go wrong next? You think, okay, let me take 14 tracks, let me take 39 minutes and listen to the purity of this music. Yeah, it's just magical.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
I mean, I can give you my phone number. My blood type is O positive if anyone needs a donation.
How about social media? How can we follow either Knighthawk Digital Entertainment Group or each of you on any of the online social media sites? You
can follow me at Rena Strober, which is RenaStrober. Knighthawk is on Instagram. What are we? Knighthawk DEG?
DEG. Knighthawk DEG on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And we are at Knighthawk Digital Entertainment Group or Knighthawkdeg.com.
And that's Knighthawk with a K.
K-N-I-G-H-T-H-A-W-K.
Yeah,
and then I'm personally at Pure Chip Beaman. That's PURECHIPBEAMAN.
Chip, where does that come from? How pure are you?
Not that pure.
I was wondering. You're a New Yorker. I know your type.
There is a difference now.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Roy. This was fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Roy.